Okay there guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Matt, and we are back with another Marvel Future Fight video. Nope, no thank you very much for daily loot chest. Right, anyway, today we are going to be looking at the new and quote-unquote improved story mode as was amended for the V.9.0 update for Marvel Future Fight, and having a look at exactly what those new features are for the autoplay and auto progress of story mode, and if that's a good thing or not for the game. Hopefully it is something that is going to be good for you personally, and hopefully it's going to mean that a lot more people are engaging with the content. So you'll have to let me know down below whether or not it was something that you did before, but we're going to have a look here and see what are the mechanics that they've kept in and what they've taken out, and also whether or not it's something that you need to sort of keep half an eye on, or it's just something that nowadays you can just play and forget about. So we'll go into Clash of the Future here, and as you can see we have our usual team here for quick clearing content. We can set it up to auto use the designated characters, but for 13.3 in particular that wouldn't really work for me. As you can see here, even though my normal team there is pretty strong, the team that it suggests, Star-Lord, Vision, both are fine as supports. Shadow Shell can't exactly carry a team though, so we're going to swap her out for Athena, because otherwise if I left it for Star-Lord, Vision, neither of those are built up. I only really use them for their leaderships for either blast types or Scarlet Witch respectively. So we're diving in here, and as you can see straight away we're facing trash mobs. Before this content, this first stage, we would be having to run through and time our runs to hide underneath the barriers to avoid being hit and pretty much one shot by the energy damage that's on the floor. And then this part is the same as before. We are facing Anti-Man in a sort of sub-boss battle, mini-boss, halfway boss, whatever you want to call it. So obviously he's no real threat to us, so we quickly finish him off and we move on to the next phase. This hasn't changed at all, this is trash mobs. But you can already see here that a lot of the stage mechanics that were in place in terms of the stage hazards and areas where you had to manually maneuver the character around or wait or hold up and have to deal with things that way have all gone now. Little things like the acid drops and the whirlwinds, they're still there, but they're not a major roadblock to progression. And as you can see here, they've redesigned Thanos's boss fight mechanics, so rather than going into separate transitions and different phases of the fight, where before by now at 140,000 or 40 million, whatever it is there, he would have stopped and you'd have to run around, and then this phase where he drops the meteorites would be at half out, and then you'd be the two separate bubbles you'd have to hide under. Now you can just straight shoot him and you're done. And you can see we've got our synergy bonus there, the 2 fragments, which again, like I say, if we hadn't have picked Athena, if we'd have just left it to autoplay, possibly all of those or some of those characters would have died, might not necessarily have got it. Now, if we look at the War, this stage, these stages, I should say, this little story mode was slightly different because you have to have characters with elemental damage. Now, you can see up here at the top all the different sections telling you about what appears in the stage and what doesn't appear in the stage. These don't seem to have changed too much, so in terms of actually dealing damage, and again that comes down to the recommended characters. Unfortunately we don't have Dormammu fully built up, and we don't have Emma Frost at all, so the only one we have here is White Fox. So we're saying we're going to take Mephisto and Human Torch in, and we'll just actually take White Fox out for a second and auto equip and see where it puts her in. If it puts her in the lead, or if it puts her in that third slot, because it'll be interesting to see where she's placed, if placing of characters matters or if it doesn't. Okay, so as we came in straight away, you can see there that it does matter where you place the characters in your team, because it's taken Mephisto as the lead, but in that first slot, rather than Human Torch, it put White Fox, because we also assigned her, even though there's a gap. So that's interesting and something to look out for. So if we move Human Torch over, will it now have 3 filled slots? Obviously this does matter if you're looking for those story fragments, because you're going to need all 3 characters to survive in order to get that 25% and then 25% for each character that is matched, in order to get the most fragments for your farming. It's only by this way we can do it, and you can see White Fox here does no damage, so we'll switch over to Human Torch. So again, if we'd have just left that as it was and gone away and come back, we'd have probably found that all characters would have died, or White Fox would definitely have died because she does no damage, and there's a chance we might not have gotten the story fragments. Switching over here, Human Torch just to clear up. You can see that the icicles, stalactites, stalagmites, whichever one it is, the ones coming up from the ground, they're still there as a stage hazard, but again, they're not a roadblock as such. They're just something that appears, does a little damage, but nothing that stops you from progressing if you don't deal with them. So we move on to the final fight with Loki, and whilst a lot of his boss mechanics have stayed the same, again, it's nothing that the computer just on autoplay can't deal with if you're using the right character. You can see here I switched over to White Fox to see if she could do any damage. She did nothing. So again, we have to use an elemental character. That's what the All Wars specific trait is. And so we move over to Human Torch and let him do all the work. Now, we still are having different transitions here with Loki, but they're not keeping us from really fighting. It's not like before where you'd have to move. If you'd got caught, I'm just moving in here just to save time and try and get through this as quickly as possible for you guys. But there's nothing where he'd have died if I'd have just left him be. And now, let's just finish off. You can actually see there used to be a trick here where if you were really close to Loki when he died at the end of the phase, he goes to the back here and he just throws out that bubble, which he used to one-shot players and he used to catch some people out. But as you can see there, the computer just moves you out of the way and we get all of our rewards, which shows up. Obviously if you'd have auto run through all stages, it would show you what you've gotten for each one there in total. So it does look like the placing of the characters on your team at the bottom is important. If you were going to repeat, for instance, there is no option there for the game to choose for you, so it won't auto designate characters. So whichever characters you've got in that team slot, if you're only half awake and you just click on it and you go through, yeah sure, if you've got a good team they'll take you through, but it is just one to look out for. So it's only by auto progressing that it'll actually do the auto designate characters. And again, depending on how well built up you have those characters, you may want to keep half an eye on it when you're running through these, because if you've got a bad character in front, like here, mine is War Tiger because it picked him automatically. I'd have put Loki at the front there, but because the game's auto designating it, it puts him there. Have I built up War Tiger? No. And the reason because is that he was just one of those free ones when we got to choose the Transcended Character Selector. He was at level 60, or he might not have even been at tier 2 actually, but I thought, you know what, I'll pick him because it gives me the most value for resources. And so I haven't done anything with him, so he pretty much is just a passenger here getting carried by Loki. Loki can obviously do it a lot quicker than either Black Panther or War Tiger could. So if your roster isn't good, your cards aren't great, then maybe that's something to look out for. Making sure maybe at the start of each month when the reset happens, you look through each phase of each story mode that you're going to play, if you play all of them or if you just play this one, you know, depending on how much time you have to set it up, look through and say, okay, well, this stage I have to manually play, this stage I have to manually play to make sure I get those fragments. You see we got the one fragment there and some bios. Maybe do that so you manually play the phrases that you have to, and then you just leave the rest for auto. But if you look at the game now, with story mode being auto play and auto progress, if you've got the characters like I said, or you can just leave it and just take what rewards you get. Dispatch mission and dimension mission, they're both either auto clear like this, you can auto clear it, or you can leave it to auto play itself and auto progress with dispatch mission, or you can auto clear but you don't get the rewards, so I don't know why you do that. In Epic Quest, a lot of the content here is auto clear, so the question remains, with less and less content for us to actually manually play in the game, is the game becoming more of an auto click? And even if game time and engagement looks to be up from their point of view, is that enough for players to actually get their teeth into these days? Or is it a question of now that we've actually taken something away that we had to manually play and now we're auto playing it? Like I say, GBR, maybe timeline battle if you're really invested, and world boss are the only things that people can really manually play now. Is that a good thing for the game? I don't know what you think. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like and share the video, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Yeah, okay, peace.